Hey horror fans, thanks for joining me for this review of Extraordinary. Alright, well, we'll start off with the ordinary here and cast and crew information down below, along with the IMDb plot, which I'm going to go ahead and read to get this thing kicked off. Rose, a mostly sweet and lonely Irish driving instructor, must use her supernatural talents to save the daughter of Martin, also mostly sweet and lonely, from a washed up rock star who is using her in a satanic pact to reignite his fame. Not his flame, his fame. Alright, so another movie that I saw kind of going around the circles there and mentioned a lot, but didn't quite catch right when it came out. I don't know if it's been released on DVD yet. I know that it's had some festival screenings and so forth. Anyway, I kind of wanted to see it because I've put it on Promote Horror a couple of times already, and I was like piqued my curiosity enough, so I'm like, okay, let me see if I can catch this one. It is a lot of comedy and mixed with horror, mixed with supernatural. Let me see. Will Forte is the rock star in this movie that's mentioned in the plot. I know he's might be an acquired taste for some. You know, he has his style of humor. So if you like his style of humor, you might like the way he plays his role. If you don't, then maybe you won't like the movie, or maybe you'll be annoyed a little bit. Don't have to be too concerned. I mean, he plays a big role in the movie, but the movie doesn't follow him. It follows Rose, who is played by Maeve Higgins. I don't know if I said her name right or not, but not too familiar with her. But she really does a really good job in this movie. She both her and Barry Ward, who is the father of I believe it's Sarah that gets, it's the name of the daughter that gets kidnapped. I'll talk about that in a minute. But both the two of them do a really good job of in their roles. All the acting is pretty good. Like I said, if you're a fan of Will, this is his typical thing. If you're not, then you might get annoyed. But the other two, who are more of where the story obviously follows Rose, but both Rose and Barry are more where the story is at, and they do a really good job of they're not the gung ho strong type actors. Characters. They're a little hesitant. They're unique in their way. They're maybe a little bit what's the word? Maybe their common sense isn't totally there. I don't know, that they're just maybe not all aware of what's going on and so forth. So you have Rose, who the movie starts actually with her father, or you don't really know it's her father. And it's not too much. I'm not going to spoil too much in this movie. Like I said, it's a comedy, not really built on a huge twist here. But her father deals in the world of the supernatural, and I don't know if it was a TV show or something he produced himself, but he has these episodes where I guess he talks about the supernatural and so forth. So that's kind of how this movie starts. And it's a little bit funny because he himself has his own take on the supernatural, and the movie itself has its own take on the supernatural. And one of the things that they do here is that not only is anybody but anything can be possessed or inhabit the supernatural. So, like your shoe, this computer, your phone, I'm using examples that are not necessarily used in the movie because I don't want to kind of spoil what they use in the movie. But it's a little bit funny, especially with the way the supernatural reacts to Rose. So, you get introduced to him, and then you get introduced to Rose, who is his daughter, but you get introduced to her as a grown-up. Apparently they worked together when they were younger. And what happens here is Rose kind of puts that in her past, or she tries to, and even though she knows it's around and so forth. And lots of people know her from her father's show and try to get her to help, but she doesn't. Like I said, she's focused on being a driver instructor. So there is a little bit of funny scenes there with her being an instructor, because again, she's just living life and whatever. She's not, all aware of what's going on at all times and so forth. So the Barry, I think it said Barry is the father, and he's got a situation of his own where it's pretty funny, is that his wife has passed away. That's not the funny part, but he's being kind of haunted by her, or she's in the house, and she makes her presence known and known to him, and I guess she's very still demanding of him, bossing him around and so forth, getting him to do things she wants him to do, even though she's not alive. So there's some comedy there, and that's pretty funny as well. And then there's the daughter who, is trying to get the dad to, solve the situation here. Is aware that the mother's around, but it's like, are we going to move on with life, or are we not, or whatever. So then the third part of this equation again is the rock star guy in this movie, which is played by Will, and he is basically used a spell, a curse, or whatever you want to call it, to continue his fame, to continue to make his music. But I guess his power is up, so he needs to do the spell again. And one of the things he needs is a virgin. So I don't want to go through every single detail here, but the virgin he finds is Barry's daughter Sarah, and Barry comes home to find Sarah in this trance, basically floating over her bed, almost like an exorcism type thing, but it's not really that. And I guess the thing here is that eventually she'll become ready and follow this rock star guy back to his home, where he will sacrifice her, and then get to continue with his agreement with this demon, being a star and being able to sing and play music and so forth. So things don't go smoothly from that end, and then Barry ends up calling Rose for help. He doesn't really know where else to go, so he calls her for help. She doesn't really want to help. He kind of fools her, saying that he needs a driving lesson, but that's not really the case. The sticking point here is that Rose kind of likes him, or thinks that he might have been hitting on her in some way or whatever. So while she doesn't really want to help with the supernatural part, she's still kind of interested there, because she thinks that they might have relationship potential, and her friend is kind of trying to push her into finding somebody in her life. And so with that, she kind of sticks with it, but she's also haunted by what happened with her dad. And again, I don't really spoil that. I don't want to go into every single detail in this movie, but that makes her reluctant to help. But the way they help is pretty funny, because there's a funny, hilarious line for Ghostbusters in this movie. I don't want to give it away so you guys can catch it. In her reaction to what Ghostbusters is. But then in Ghostbuster kind of theme way, the way to help Sarah, or the way that they go about trying to help Sarah, is kind of their own spell, or their own spell, I guess. is to collect ectoplasm from ghosts. But there's a whole procedure in the way they do this. And it's a little bit about, the thing with Rose and her father was talented in one way. Rose had a special talent of her own. So she has to use this talent again in order to get this ectoplasm from the ghost. And I don't want to go much further in it. I don't want to tell you guys what that is, but it is pretty funny. Not really to Barry's benefit there, and it is funny, and it adds some uniqueness to the story. Again, while this is supernatural, they kind of have their own take on it. So there's a lot of funniness going on in that realm. So basically that you have two sides here. One's trying to save Sarah. One's trying to take Sarah to be sacrificed to the demon, and it all leads to a really funny ending scene here. There are a few things here and there revealed. I think if you're paying attention, again, I'm not going to spoil anything here, but if you're paying attention, you might have a key on maybe a certain thing or two. You can see a certain thing or two not coming out as planned for one or two of the characters. It ends up being a really funny ending scene here. A lot of chaos going on. Again, this is comedy horror, so it's not huge on blood and guts and so forth. But I sometimes can be picky with my comedy horror, but I thought this was pretty funny overall. Not the most hilarious thing, but it was certainly funny in its own right. Again, if you're a fan of, I noticed when I tweeted this for Promote Horror for something going on, and somebody said, Will Forte, the last man on earth. So if you're a fan of that show and fan of him, then maybe you'll like this. Again, he's not the star, but he does play an important part in this role. He is involved in this movie. He has some funny back and forth. I guess I don't know if it ended up being his wife or his girlfriend or whatever, but she's along for the ride on his end, and they have a funny back and forth going on between the two of them, and that produces some humor as well. So there's a lot of humor in this movie, obviously, because it's a horror comedy, but I enjoyed it. I'm going to give this one 3 pools of blood. I thought the acting was really solid. Like I said, I don't know too much about Maeve Higgins, but I thought she was really funny in the movie and really nailed her role and nailed her character and the way her character behaved and so forth, which made it, again, really funny. And I thought, the acting was all around pretty solid. I don't know if I would say I'm a huge fan of Will, but I did watch that Last Man on Earth show, and I did find it amusing to a point. So I took in everything that he did and knew what to expect from him. So overall, again, good acting from everybody. Really funny movie. Definitely something if you're looking for some laughs in these hard times. A good movie to throw on. I can see why it did well at festivals and so forth. So and it has some uniqueness and has its own way of going about the supernatural and so forth. Not it's not taking it too seriously either. So they have fun with it. So again, 3 pools of blood for this one. Even if there's even a funny line in reference to the title, and you'll see they do show where they get the title for this movie. While I'm just kind of throw that in there as well. So a lot of humor here and there. So you got to kind of pay attention to the movie. There's some smaller things and then some things that are more obviously funny. But a good concluding scene there, final scene to this movie as well. So 3 pools of blood, and I guess that's to be said for this one. More video reviews, please subscribe to this channel. You can always find more, including written reviews, at horosgoryreviews.blogspot.com, and social media is down below. Feel free to comment if you've seen this movie. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Agree or disagree, either way. Also on social media, if you want to comment there as well, that's fine. You can comment on the blog as well. Lots of places to comment. So with that, this is, I don't know if this was extraordinary review or not, but it is what it is. And I'll catch you next time, horror fans.